The moment a man says he likes being alone, people don't hear peace, they hear a problem. Cold, antisocial, emotionally unavailable, and maybe a little broken. And that fear isn't just social, it starts whispering doubts in your own mind. And here's the part nobody says. What if a small part of you has wondered that too? That thought hits fast because being misunderstood doesn't just shape how others see you, it quietly shapes how you see yourself. You start questioning whether your quiet nature is a flaw instead of a choice. Most people get it completely wrong. They confuse loneliness with solitude. Loneliness feels empty, heavy, unwanted. Solitude feels calm, controlled, safe. Yet society treats them the same. When you enjoy your own space, you're not just choosing quiet, you're constantly defending yourself inside your head. You might wonder if you should force yourself to be louder, more social, more normal, just to avoid labels. Over time, that pressure doesn't just affect your mood, it leaks into your relationships, your confidence, even the direction you take in life. But here's the kicker. Pulling back isn't always avoidance. It can be protection. Some men isolate not because they hate people. They do it because chaos drains them, expectations exhaust them, and peace feels rare. The real issue isn't solitude, it's how quickly the world treats it like weakness. And what most men never realize is that this preference for being alone often comes from a deeper psychological pattern, one that quietly shapes how they connect, trust, and move through the world. Most people assume men who enjoy solitude are cold, distant, or struggling with intimacy. And if you don't recognize it, you might be misjudged, misunderstood, or even underestimated. But the truth nobody says, often it's the exact opposite. Many men who crave their own space are quietly reflective. They notice patterns others miss. They understand their thoughts in ways constant socializing never allows. Solitude isn't a shield from connection, it's a tool to sharpen it. And here's the paradox. The more a man understands himself in solitude, the harder it can be to explain that depth to others. Small talk drains him. Shallow conversations feel meaningless. That frustration grows quietly, often unnoticed. People see distance and label it coldness, but underneath there's a rich internal world, a mind that's processing, feeling, observing, learning. You might wonder, am I the only one who feels this way? This is where a deeper psychological pattern emerges. Men who favor solitude operate on a rhythm most people don't understand. They recharge differently. They process emotions differently. They make choices that can seem unconventional, not because they're avoiding life, but because they're tuned in to their own energy first. That's not weakness. That's clarity. That's inner mastery. That's self-command.
And here's the kicker. Once you see solitude as an intentional strategy rather than a flaw, everything shifts. You start questioning the labels society has forced on you. You start noticing how your boundaries, your preferences, and your energy matter. Slowly, you realize the world isn't wrong for expecting chaos. You're just not obligated to live in it. So the question becomes, what does it really mean to master your own mental rhythm? And why do so few people ever notice it? That's the pattern most men never see, and it's about to change the way you look at yourself forever. Society has a weird way of treating men who love solitude. Most people instantly assume there's a problem. They label it reserved, judged, hard to read. And if you don't defend your own space, it quietly eats at your confidence, questions your value, and makes you feel small. But here's the thing, that judgment doesn't just come from others. It sneaks into your own head too. You start second-guessing yourself, wondering if enjoying your own space is a flaw. And here's the irony. The men who are hardest to understand are often the ones who are most self-aware. They notice the patterns, the energy drains, the little things others overlook. But because the world measures connection differently, constant chatter, visible excitement, always-on energy, their calm, reflective nature gets mistaken for weakness. You might think, why does being composed and controlled feel like I'm failing somehow? This misunderstanding creates pressure. Relationships drain, work feels chaotic, friendships misfire, all because your need for space isn't respected. Yet a deeper psychological pattern emerges. These men are tuned into their own energy, their own mental rhythm. They prioritize clarity over chaos, depth over distraction. That's not weakness, that's focus, that's inner mastery, that's self-command. Here's the kicker. Once you see these patterns, why society misreads you, why shallow interactions feel exhausting, why boundaries matter, it changes everything. You realize you don't need to conform to expectations that drain you. You can operate on your own terms. So the question becomes, if society misunderstands you, how do you protect your energy while still thriving? That's the psychological insight most men never notice, and it's about to reshape how you live, work, and connect. Here's the thing most people don't get. Solitude isn't just about being alone, it's a secret advantage. Men who crave their own space aren't avoiding life, they're sharpening their mind, observing patterns, and processing experiences in ways that constant noise never allows. Every quiet moment becomes a tool to understand themselves and the world around them. But here's the catch. While they're building clarity, most people are still judging. They call it aloof, detached, or even antisocial. That judgment sticks, and if you let it, it can make you question yourself. Am I overthinking? Am I missing something? That tiny doubt can feel heavy, especially when everyone around you measures success by activity, chatter, and visible energy. Yet a deeper psychological pattern here is that men who use solitude intentionally are often the ones who make smarter decisions, handle stress better, and stay grounded when chaos hits. They're not hiding, they're powering up. They notice details others overlook. They sense dynamics before others do. And that edge, it shapes everything: relationships, work, creativity, and life choices. Here's the kicker. Understanding this changes the game. Once you see solitude as strategy instead of a flaw, you start valuing your boundaries, your mental energy, and your rhythm. You stop trying to fit into expectations that drain you. You start trusting yourself, and that trust radiates outward. So the question is, if solitude is your secret strength, why do so few people recognize it, and how can you use it without letting judgment break you? That's the psychological insight most men never notice, and it's about to reshape how you live, work, and connect.
Here's the thing most people don't get. Solitude isn't just about being alone. It's a secret advantage. Men who crave their own space aren't avoiding life. They're sharpening their mind, observing patterns, and processing experiences in ways that constant noise never allows. Every quiet moment becomes a tool to understand themselves and the world around them. But here's the catch. While they're building clarity, most people are still judging. They call it aloof, detached, or even antisocial. That judgment sticks, and if you let it, it can make you question yourself. Am I overthinking? Am I missing something? That tiny doubt can feel heavy, especially when everyone around you measures success by activity, chatter, and visible energy. Yet there's a deeper psychological pattern here. Men who use solitude intentionally are often the ones who make smarter decisions, handle stress better, and stay grounded when chaos hits. They're not hiding, they're powering up. They notice details others overlook. They sense dynamics before others do. And that edge? It's invisible to the casual observer, but it shapes everything: relationships, work, creativity, and life choices. Here's the kicker. Understanding this changes the game. Once you see solitude as strategy instead of a flaw, you start valuing your boundaries, your mental energy, and your rhythm. You stop trying to fit into expectations that drain you. You start trusting yourself, and that trust radiates outward. So the question is, if solitude is your secret strength, why do so few people recognize it? And how can you use it without letting judgment break you? That's the insight most men never see, and it's about to transform how you think about alone time forever. Here's something most people never notice. Men who enjoy being alone aren't disconnected, they're deliberate. Every choice, every pause, every moment of silence is part of a bigger strategy.
They're constantly evaluating energy, understanding dynamics, and protecting their mental space. It's not avoidance, it's self-preservation and mastery. But society doesn't see it that way. People assume they're cold, distant, or even lazy. Friends get frustrated, colleagues misunderstand, family thinks they're detached. That misjudgment, it stings, and if you let it, it can make you question your own instincts. Am I too much? Am I failing to connect? Here's the truth. Men who embrace their solitude often navigate life better than most. They set boundaries others ignore. They think strategically when chaos hits. They notice patterns before anyone else does. Their quiet isn't emptiness, it's awareness, precision, and foresight. They operate on a rhythm most people never even notice, and that rhythm gives them clarity, confidence, and control. The kicker? Most men never realize this about themselves until they start questioning the labels society throws at them. Suddenly, alone time isn't a weakness, it's a power source. It's the difference between reacting and responding, between drifting with the crowd and moving with intention.
So the big question is, if solitude can be your ultimate advantage, how do you use it without letting judgment, pressure, or misunderstanding derail you? Understanding this psychological pattern is the key. Once you do, you'll start seeing alone time not as isolation, but as a secret weapon for growth, clarity, and self-mastery. Here's the truth nobody tells you. Men who spend time alone often develop a kind of emotional radar most people never notice. They notice micro-reactions, subtle tones, and patterns that others miss. That quiet space? It's a training ground for understanding people, situations, and themselves. But here's the problem. Society interprets that awareness as distance. People think they're cold or detached. Conversations feel shallow. Social events feel draining. And if you don't guard your boundaries, that misperception seeps into your self-image. Am I really too distant? Am I failing at connection? Here's the twist. This solitude isn't a weakness, it's a tool. It sharpens thinking, it hones intuition, it teaches patience, empathy, and clarity in ways constant social noise never can. Those who embrace it can read situations, understand motives, and make decisions with calm precision. It's like having a mental advantage others don't even know exists. The kicker? This pattern doesn't just make life smoother, it creates power. Quiet men often excel when chaos strikes because they've spent their time observing, reflecting, and understanding. They don't react blindly, they respond intentionally. And that edge? Invisible to most, but transformative in relationships, career, and personal growth. So the big question is, if solitude gives you this hidden advantage, how do you protect it, use it, and let it shape your life without letting society's labels or expectations derail you? Once you see this pattern clearly, you'll never look at alone time the same way again. It's not emptiness, it's strategy, it's insight, it's power, quietly building one moment at a time. Here's the final truth about men who enjoy solitude. It's not about avoiding life, it's about mastering it. Every moment alone builds self-awareness, sharpens focus, and teaches lessons most people only learn the hard way. Those quiet hours aren't empty, they're full of reflection, strategy, and insight. But society still struggles to understand it. They see distance, not depth. They see calm, not clarity. And if you let those judgments sink in, they can make you question yourself. Am I doing something wrong? Do I need to change? Here's the twist. The very solitude they criticize is what gives these men an edge. They process emotions before reacting. They spot patterns before chaos hits. They make choices with intention, not impulse. They understand themselves in ways that allow them to navigate relationships, careers, and challenges with precision. That quiet power, it's invisible to most, but it's transformative. And here's the kicker. Once you truly see this pattern, the psychology of solitude, self-reflection, and energy management, it changes everything. Alone time isn't a flaw, it's a tool, a strategy, a secret advantage that shapes who you are, how you act, and how you connect with the world.
So the big question is, if solitude gives you this hidden advantage, how will you use it, and how will you make sure nobody's judgment steals it from you? Once you internalize this, everything shifts. You stop seeing being alone as lonely. You start seeing it as a space for growth, control, and self-mastery. And that perspective, it's life-changing.